How's it going, everybody? Ragroth here. So Gotham Knights is out, and it is probably the most divisive game I've ever seen, or at least one of them. However, I'll just say that I am enjoying it. It's nothing like, a 10 out of 10, but I am having a lot of fun with it. And pretty much everyone I talk to, I think, is having fun with it as well. Now, something I wanted to talk about is, we hear oh, is the game good? The game sucks. It's not as good as Arkham, blah, blah, blah. And, Arkham is what we generally hear when we talk about Gotham Knights. Well, I think for something refreshing, I wanted to point out some things that Gotham Knights does better than the Arkham games. And these are, for the most part, objective things. You could probably argue some subjectivity in there, but for the most part, you can't really dispute them. And there's 5 things, and I guess sort of an honorable mention that I'll get into later, that I kind of wanted to say that I think Gotham Knights is better and why I think that. So let's get started. Number 5. More full combat animations. I didn't really know how to properly word this one. What I basically mean is I feel like with the combat in Arkham, in Gotham Knights, is okay. You can say what you want about the speed, the flow of it, whatever. However, when you actually see one of the Knights attacks, you actually see them attack. You see them do the full thing. You see Nightwing do that flip kick. You see Red Hood slam that guy down. You see Robin do the spins with the friggin' spins with his staff. You see Batgirl do the beatdowns with the tonfas. In the Arkham games, especially Knight, and by the way, I should have clarified, I am mainly talking about Arkham Knight since that is the newest one. Obviously, we can bring some of the other ones in this as well, but I'm mainly focusing on Knight. I just feel like it's not that the animations are bad in Arkham Knight, but they're just so I can hardly tell what's going on sometimes, more so in the higher combo counters. Batman is just flying all over the place, just punching or kicking. I can't even tell, but I feel like I can always tell what's going on, what they're doing in Gotham Knights. And it kind of makes me appreciate, at least, I don't know about the mechanics of the combat more, but just kind of the look of it, the aesthetics of it, what's going on, the beatdown. And in a way, it sometimes feels more satisfying. Sometimes. This is something, you can maybe make an argument for, but I just feel like I see a little bit more of what the characters are actually doing in Gotham Knights. Number 4. Outfits are unlockable in-game and they're customizable. This is something that I cannot believe no one has really brought up, but basically all of the Arkham games up to Knight, if there are alternate costumes, if there were, I know Asylum had none. A City was the one that had some, and then all of them, they all had some after City. But if you recall, they were basically all DLC, except for maybe there was maybe one an armored up version or something that I feel like maybe Batman had that you unlocked in game, which is oh yeah, big whoop, in all honesty. But all the special ones like Batman Beyond, Sinestro Corps, Nightfall, all of them, they were DLC, pre-order bonuses. I remember having to buy a can of NOS to use a code to get the Batman Beyond skin in Arkham City. Yeah, you don't have to do that in Gotham Knights. So you can unlock the costumes in-game, and they're not, for the most part, that hard to get. It's a little complicated there. But the point is, you can get them in-game. You can unlock them. You can customize them to some degree. There's alternate colors for them. There's a lot more going on there. And obviously I'm hoping there will be more outfits they're adding down the line. And I do know there were some, the Beyond ones and the Jim Lee ones, that were DLC, but for the most part, there's a lot you can unlock in game and customize. That's a lot more. And in a superhero game, I think that matters a lot. And granted, I do remember, I think, for some reason, I think a lot of superhero games, at least the big open world ones, they didn't have a lot of alternate costumes, at least at launch. And maybe the Arkham games, at least City was one of the first to have it, but even still, you had to pay for them. They were not included in the base game. And I guess maybe part of the argument is that they were all established source material outfits, while Gotham Knights, they kind of make some up, or they kind of take some that are inspired by some source material, and it is weird that the Jim Lee ones and the Batman and the Beyond ones happen to be a DLC, and they're kind of more direct references. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe there's licenses they got to pay for. But even still, I have to give it to Gotham Knights. At least there's some, you're not stuck with one look with the 4 characters in game. You got some other stuff to work with, and they are a lot of the times inspired at least by established outfits. I still think they could have been a little better with that, and I don't really like how the transmog system is handled. But I still think it's better than what the Arkham games, Arkham City Tonight offered at least at launch with costumes. Number 3. Vehicle is not forced on you. So now what I mean by this is that, Arkham Knight and Gotham Knights, they both have some kind of vehicle you can drive around. Arkham Knight has the Batmobile. Gotham Knights has the Batcycle for each character. Now, this is probably the number one criticism of Arkham Knight was that the Batmobile was just forced upon you. There was just so much they relied on doing it, on driving around the tank missions. Well, you know what? You don't have that problem in Gotham Knights. Yes, okay, you have to use the Batcycle sometimes, but it's, at least so far, I have hardly had to really absolutely use it, aside from having to get around the city. That's really it. So, like, for all the people hating on Arkham Knight, they're also hating on Gotham Knights. Well, yeah, I think you're acting a little contradictory there. And yes, okay, this is kind of one of those things that's like, well, it wasn't, this wasn't in all the Arkham games, but a lot of the comparisons I see with Arkham games usually involve Arkham Knight, so I feel like it is fair to mention this big thing with the vehicles. And I do get it, the Batmobile did have a lot more effort put into it, but I do definitely respect that, but I much would have rather they focused on kind of playing as other characters more, or just playing as just Batman more than a lot of stuff they make you do as the Batmobile. I'm glad the Batmobile was in the game, but it was it was overload. And I love Arkham Knight. It is probably my favorite Arkham game, at least post all the DLC and stuff. But this was a big problem with it that Gotham Knights definitely tried to address that feedback. Number 2. More lively open world. Now, okay, this is probably another kind of subjective one, but I just personally think the Gotham in Gotham Knights is just a lot more prettier to look at than the Gotham in Arkham Knight. Now, I'm not saying the Gotham in Arkham Knight is bad by any means. No, it is still a sight to behold, but I don't know. The Gotham Knights Gotham is just, it's something else. I think it's actually probably one of the nicest looking open world cities, at least. I don't want to say open world, but open world cities that I've ever seen in a game. I just think there's a lot more to it. And, there's more people around. There's just more going on, I feel like. Yeah, it's still not super full of life. Like, it's probably a little less full of life than, say, New York in the PS4 Spider-Man game. And probably, I'm sure New York will be even more lively in the sequel. But I still think it's better than Arkham Knight's Gotham. It's just it feel and it just feels more unique. It feels more different. I feel like the locations stand out a little bit more. Again, not that the locations didn't stand out in Arkham Knight, but I don't know. I just think it's a bigger sight to behold. I've even got, I never really used photo mode that much, but this game actually made me use photo mode a couple times. Let's put it that way. Honorable mentions. And then I just have one honorable mention, and that's just the fact that Gotham Knights has co-op. Now, the reason this is an honorable mention is because I don't really think this is that fair to bring up against Arkham Knight or any of the Arkham games, because the point of those games was to purely be single player. The point of Gotham Knights was to be a single player and multiplayer game. So, yeah, but I mean, I guess it is still something that, the reason I still have it on this list is because it is still something that you can do in Gotham Knights that, especially, I can definitely say is enjoyable, that you cannot do in the Arkham games. And I think I think this is unfortunately a good chunk of the reason why maybe Gotham Knights sort of is a little more choppy in some areas than, say, the Arkham games is, because I think it is a lot more work to kind of make the world to be available for more than just one person running around. Again, I'm not trying to make an excuse. It is a next-gen game. It would have been nice if it was handled a bit better. But even still, it is still a thing that has to be taken into consideration when developing these games. Number 1. more characters in the game at launch to go around the city as. This is probably the biggest one for me, as one of my main dreams was I just kind of wanted a Batman-centric game where you could actually play as the other characters and actually go around the city as them, kind of do the story as them, do missions as them. And I basically got that with this game. But it's like, putting that bias aside, like, there's just the Arkham games. First of all, you can only really run around as Batman. I think a couple times they let you play as Catwoman, but you didn't really run around as her too much. And then I think even then, most of the characters you can play as, like, outside of that, are usually DLC. Now, Arkham Knight, I believe, Arkham Knight may have had more characters overall to play as at launch, but a couple of them I think were like pre-order. I know, like Harley Quinn and Red Hood, they were pre-orders. I think it was just maybe Batman, Catwoman, and maybe there's like once or twice you got to play as like Robin and Nightwing. I know Batgirl was DLC. And I know, Azrael, but he was just a reskin of Batman. I think they just kind of let you play as him in the challenge maps just for completion's sake, really. So I overall consider this game to have more characters at launch, just much more to do with them. This maybe not matter to some people, but I don't know. To me, I think it matters with kind of such a big universe and other characters kind of, other hero characters involved in the story. So I think it definitely got to give it some credit here. Obviously, I guess if you like Batman more than these characters, well, then, again, that's where some of the subjectivity comes into play. So that's really all I got. I could probably think of some other things Gotham Knights does better, but these are, I think, the main 5 things, or I guess maybe 6 things, that it does better. And again, you can disagree with me, but I do feel like a lot of these, are a little harder to argue. Like I'm not saying the combat's better. I'm not saying the story's better. I'm just saying it does these specific kind of features a little bit better. There's a little more to them, or they handled it better with, like, in terms of like the vehicle, things like that. Again, I just think we need a little bit more positivity on this game. I think there is a little more positivity now that more people have played it, and the people that decided they don't like it, and the reviews and all that. But even still, I think it's time we just kind of focus on things that Gotham Knights does actually do better than the Arkham games. And I'm not saying that it does everything better. No, I am not saying that at all. Keep in mind, I still do love the Arkham games. I'm not saying Gotham Knights is 100% better, but I am saying it does things I definitely like better. So I'd really like to hear what you have to say in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, what you guys think, if you guys agree with this, if you disagree with this, or if there's maybe some other things that I haven't mentioned that Gotham Knights is better. Let me know in the comments below. But thank you so much for checking out this video. Like the video if you like it. Dislike if you dislike it. Definitely consider subscribing if you like this video and some of my others. Thank you so much for checking out the video. And as I always say, another time, another place. Keep being awesome.